going on, everyone? It's Alex. Welcome back to the channel. Episode 3 of Moon Knight has just released, and it might have just given us the third identity that's tied to Moon Knight. So far, we have of course seen the Stephen Grant and Mark Spector identities, accompanied by their Moon Knight and Mr. Knight suits, but it seems like this long-lost and third-man identity from the comics has been following us since the beginning. The first clue we got is the fact that every paneled mirror shot splits him into 3, which I believe is meant to represent Stephen, Mark, and of course now Jake. There's this shot here in episode 1, the credits have a shot with 3 reflections as well, and of course other shots are throughout. Now at first I thought it was just a stylistic choice, but after repeating multiple times through multiple episodes, it's safe to say that it has some sort of importance. And so before we continue into all the other evidence, this is actually what Oscar Isaac had to say about the character.
Y tal vez más que dos, tal vez más de dos puede ser, se tiene que ver la serie.
I mean, listen, I'm no detective, but the man has practically told us that there are 3 main identities coming, and so far we have technically only had 2. The Mr. Knight version may evolve over time, as in the comics it's kind of its own separate identity, but right now it's only Stephen and Mark. Oscar doesn't voice Khonshu, so he isn't the third option, and the suits are just tied to each respective identity as of right now. So we haven't fully or technically met the third identity yet, which is going to be Jake Lockley. Jake is the taxi cab driver alter identity in the comics, and one of his most iconic outfits is the classic jacket and hat, the same one that we see Mark wear in episode 3. The question we should ask ourselves now is though, was Jake the one who got dressed that morning? Which sounds pretty stupid, I know.
The idiot's in control.
But we also have to mention that when Mark wakes back up for the first time, he actually wakes up in a taxi cab and the driver said he was taking him to the airport. So it's a ton of Jake Lockley Easter eggs without actually telling us who it is first. Jake was the undercover alter also in the comics and really honed down on the criminals of New York City. The really important part of this aspect though was the fact that he built a network of informants and spies that would always help him target criminals. And one of the most important informants was Crawley. Now Crawley is actually the same person Stephen talks to a couple times in the series, and in the comics Crawley is Jake's go-to man on the street level for all sorts of information. But why is that important? It's because my guess is that when Mark's mind was fractured and the identities started combining, Stephen remembered him as a friend but not as an informant, the same way that he thought he loved French poetry, but it was really just Layla's favorite. It was his memories being confused as the identities overlapped with information. So not directly, but at this point in the Moon Knight comics when Jake became more prominent, the addition of Lockley to the identity list overall, it pretty much is what sparked the deeper struggles with his identity. Now obviously in the show they use Stephen for that original shock factor, but the same thing can happen when Jake comes around and maybe we just haven't seen it yet. Jake is meant to be the most low-key of the bunch, but he's extremely tough as well. Most would even identify him as the most brutal when in basic combat and fights, which can explain why Mark and Stephen can't remember the fights on the rooftops in Egypt. It's Jake, the third identity, taking over, but because they aren't aware of him, they are unsure and blame it on each other. And purposely when these events happen, it appears like some of the most brutal acts that he's done, lining up with what Jake's known for. Something that also might have gone under the radar is one of the very first scenes of the show, when the other museum worker asks if they were still on for their steak date, to which Stephen acts like he has no clue about it. Now I think that Jake was originally the one to ask the girl out to dinner, which is ironic because he's known for being the ladies' man of the identities as well. There's also a really sneaky shot in episode 2 when he's in the locker facility, and it doesn't look important at all right now. Trust me, I get it, but the zoom in on the locker shaking wasn't just meant to show Khonshu's presence in my opinion. It was also a small Easter egg that something or someone is trying to break out, like his third identity. So as you keep watching throughout these episodes, maybe take a peek at certain up-close objects to see if they're shaking. It could lead to unlocking something bigger, and it's something that no one has really been talking about. I mean, I assume as the series progresses we will be seeing Jake Lockley overall, but if not in the direct episodes, definitely by the post-credits scene. I posted a full video detailing all of that. You can click the link in the description to check it out. But I can see why Marvel wanted to tone the character back slightly and really just work on Mark and Stephen as characters first. The two identities are slowly starting to respect and accept each other, but if Jake came along and he had his own plans in mind of his own, what would that mean? So if the rumor is true and Jake Lockley unveils himself at the very end in the post-credits as a sort of segue into what's next, I wouldn't be mad at all. It's unsure if he will stay in London, but it does kind of seem like that right now, so driving away in a taxi or picking up Jack Russell, who's the werewolf by night, seems like a perfect fit for a post-credit scene, especially with the Werewolf special coming out later this year. The progression of every identity working together to become the best Moon Knight Mark can be seems to be the overall goal, which has been really fun to watch so far. And so to differentiate Jake from Mark and Steven, I assume he'll go with a heavy Brooklyn or Northern New Jersey accent, which would be ideal to see in live action. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. It's no doubt in my mind that we will see Jake, but the real question for the reveal is just when. You can follow me on Twitter at AnotherMarvelG for daily news and updates, or if you're more into the chat lifestyle, consider joining the Discord. The links are in the description as always. If you like Marvel, the MCU, comics, and everything in between, subscribe to the channel and drop a like. Other than that, I just want to say thank you. I'm another Marvel guy, and I'll catch you on the blip.